Hey guys, Rickshaw here, and the little miniature rickshaws. Get Dorothy to open that for you, okay? We're out here. I'm just sitting out this morning, and we got this beautiful, beautiful day. It's going to be hot today, I believe. I'm feeling the sun on the back of my neck. It's good. I'm going to get some sun today. My sweetie's out getting her hair due over at her buddy's house, which is kind of cool. Hold on, I got to cover my foot. And we finished our breakfast, just goofing around. But she's looking at a nice little dog. Our neighbor, or her buddy, has a beautiful dog there at her house. Very protective and sweet to the family. And had some puppies, and there's a little male there that we can have if we want it. So she's debating on that. And it's nice short hair, and I told her I want it to be a house dog and just go for walks with us and stuff. Pretty much a house dog, though. It's not real big. I think the mother is about maybe 40 pounds, so that'll be about right for in the house. And so we're thinking about that. Also, we have our friend got a cat. I'm not really a cat guy, but he has this cat that just is the coolest cat. It goes out. What? Oh, Dorothy will open it. Tell Dorothy to open it. And it goes and gets mice and stuff and brings them back to his house, and catching stuff. This thing's it's hunting and catching stuff all the time. Not fighting with all the other cats. It's just catching stuff. It's a hunter. It's a nice female. Well, 4 kitties come out of that, and 2 of them are almost identical in coloring to her. And it's a beautiful cat. It's nothing fancy, but I mean, to me, it's just a good-looking cat. And there's a male and a female. So he said we could have our choice. So we're thinking of that when we get to the new house, so that we can keep the mice. We're the first ones in the development, so there's a lot of upgrown lots around. So I need to get a weed whacker and keep that cleared down. We're as far away from the river in the development as you can get, because there are snakes over there. I've seen them, so we're watching out for that. It's nice to have a dog for that. If the kids are outside playing, I'll train the dog to stay right with us, and that way the kids will always have a little protector with them in case if I'm a little too far away or something. So that's my thoughts on that. People here that have dogs, they don't really train them. Every dog I had, I never needed a leash for. I could train them to heel, sit. I always looked at dogs, and there's 2 kinds of dogs as far as I'm concerned. There's ones that look at your face, and there's ones that look at your hands. So that's the first thing you need to learn about them, so you can know how to control them. I actually had one small shepherd. She was only about 45 pounds. Called her Scrump. She was the easiest trained dog in the world because she loved me. And she was eye or hand, I might say. I could control her silently with my hand signals, or a call or a whistle. I could take her into the middle of an intersection, tell her to sit, and leave. And she wouldn't come without a whistle. She knew how to cross the roads. She was very protective. She was just something special. And I trained her. I had lots of time at that time. I was recovering from a very bad back injury, so I had time. And now that I'm retired, I have time again. And I don't care what kind of dog you get. They're trainable. I had a Great Dane I got off my sister, and it was very unruly. And big dog, extremely big dog, and I had to throw that dog down, growl it and bite it and do everything else to establish who was the boss with that dog. Once that was done, great dog. Never really healed. It would, whenever we would go for a walk, it would do this. It would do this thing in front of me like this. And if anybody most people, if they saw me on the sidewalk, they crossed to the other side with this dog. But if they stayed on that side, it would get between me and them and just give this growl out where people were like, "Oh, mister, get your dog, get your dog." I even had the police one time in a park. They said, hey, you need to have that dog on a leash. They wouldn't get out of their car. They did it on their speaker. And I said, he's on a leash, verbal leash. And I said, Tut, come over here. And he come over and sat down next to me. So they pretty much left me alone. He was a great protector. He was the first dog I ever had. He got heartworm. He about 8 years old, and I loved him. He was my buddy. He just aged. All of a sudden, he just aged and got old and gray and couldn't get around, and then he died. And I know this sounds kind of crazy, but I was curious, so I cut him open and I took a look, and he had a thing called heartworm. It was just like a big whitish, yellowish looking vein all around the heart, was just grabbing it, and that's what killed him. And ever since then, I make sure that any dog I have gets the heartworm medicine. Dogs here in the Philippines, most people that have them, there's people around here, higher end people, their dogs are inside. They keep them in good shape, they're house dogs, and they live a long time. But most of these ones that run around out here, the people who have them that just leave them outside at night. We have one that comes over here. We actually started putting leftovers out, not for that we want to feed them and draw them into us. It's because we don't want them knocking all the garbage over, digging in there for something to eat, because these people don't take care of them. And those dogs rarely live over 4 years. Rarely. I mean, they're full of worms. They're sickly. They're skinny. I know the governor. You watch my channel, and you always talk about that silly look. These dogs got this. It's a worm. The worms, I think, get into their brain, and then they're just untrainable, and they're just on auto program to eat and crap, which is a shame here. But I'm looking forward to getting a pup. If we don't get, if my wife doesn't decide, she has to agree with it. If she decides she doesn't want this one, I'm looking for a nice big short-haired lab, something like that, or Doberman. I love the Dobermans. They're just great dogs. Very easy to train. And Labradors are just big happy guys. My favorite Labrador I ever knew, I had a friend named Mark, and he had this big chocolate lab. I can't remember the dog's name. It would not leave his property if you pulled up. But when I came up there, it was so happy, and its most dangerous thing was not its teeth, it was its tail. It would wag so much, its whole body wagged from the nose to the tail, and if it plonked you with that tail, you had a welt. It was just a great dog. But the funny thing was, if you had ill intent, this dog was looking you in the eye. If you were somebody that shouldn't have been there or something, this dog was growling at you. The hairs would stand up. That dog was incredibly smart, and that got me into a love affair with the Labradors. They're really good family dogs. They're gonna mother your children. There's the neighbor over here has got 2 male Labradors, a blonde one and a white one. And boy, I would love to have a pup out of one of them. They're the biggest, friendliest guys on the planet, and their bark is just so deep and resonant that it's going to scare anyone away. It just sounds like their mouth can bite your body. They're a good deterrent of people who are fraudulent, you might say. So we're looking forward to getting a pup here. I've always had dogs my whole life. I had hunting dogs. I remember I had 15 hunting dogs at a time. We had lots of them, and they just didn't sit in a box. We took them hunting most of the time. And a lot of my friends, we all hunt. Guys would come over, hey, can I borrow your dog? Yeah, sure, take him. I can't go tonight, you take him. So we were running them all the time, and it's not an income, but it feeds them. It feeds them. Loved it. Loved the coon hunt. Loved the fox hunt. Loved the rabbit hunt. I even had a squirrel dog. I got this little dog from a guy named Jack McElhaney. He was from Iowa, and I had the dog shipped in, and he was a little terrier, and this guy claimed he was a squirrel dog, so I took a chance and bought this dog, and it was the coolest dog. He didn't weigh only about 5-6 pounds, and he could pitter-patter through the leaves in the fall. And you couldn't hear him. So you'd stand there and turn him loose, and he wasn't smelling them, he was looking for them. He had a real sharp eye, this little fella. And as soon as he seen one, he'd start barking. Well, he'd stay between me and the tree where the squirrel was, and then when you gave him a hand signal or a whistle, he'd run to the other side of the tree and start barking. The squirrel would come to my side, and I'd get a shot. It was the coolest dog in the world, and I named him Jack Hoff because he was a little bastard. He was a squirrel thing. And then when you shot him and they came to the ground, he'd shake them up and just tear them up, and then you'd bring them back. And if you didn't cut that squirrel open and give him the heart, he wouldn't hunt no more. He'd stay right by your feet until you did that. And the dude told me that. There was a letter in the box when he shipped him, and the first time I just stuck the squirrel in the sack, my back sack, and we went, and he wouldn't leave my feet. And then I remembered the letter, and I cut him open, and I pulled the heart out, and I gave it to him, and then he went hunting again. And I got more squirrels off of that dog than any dog I ever had. And then I had another terrier. I know everybody wants beagles and all this stuff, but I had another terrier that was a rabbit dog that was named Susie. It was actually my grandpap's dog, but it was essentially mine. He'd let me take him anytime I wanted, and she was one heck of a... She would actually cruise around, and then she would point. She was a terrier. She would point a rabbit. She'd see a dang bramble or something, and she could get in there where the bigger beagles can't get in there. They just bark around the outside, and that rabbit won't come out. She'd go in there after him because she wasn't much bigger than a rabbit. And she'd point, and all she had to do was say, "Get him." And as soon as she got him, boy, you better have your gun loaded and ready because that rabbit was coming out of there. So, to me, it's always been an easy job to train a dog, mainly because I love them. I've had a love affair since I was a small kid with dogs. When I was very, very young, my father, I think I was 5. He took me to a bar, and there was a fellow who had this little blonde, it was a Cocker Spaniel and Beagle mix, and it was completely blonde with a little gold diamond. And the guy told me, you can have the dog for a nickel down and a nickel a week. And my father asked me if I wanted him, and we got her. Named her Spotty, and that was the coolest little dog. I didn't know how to train him then. Okay, cool.
I squeezed it out of the orange.
Very good. So we had her for a good while. And she was a great dog. She went with me wherever I went. If I went somewhere, she went. If I walked to school, she followed me to school, and then she went home. And she knew what time school was getting out and would meet me when I came out of the school. She didn't stay there. She'd meet me when I came out. And sometimes she'd even show up at recess. So, that was my love affair with dogs, and I've always had one. I'm sure a lot of you guys have the same thing, and you girls too. You just have there's something special. They're God spelled backwards. They're a gift from the good Lord above, and I want one. I've been a good while without them. When we first moved here, we got 2 of them, and loved them. They weren't big dogs, maybe 20 pounds each, and they were like shepherd and what do they call that dog? Can't remember the name of the dog. Really smart dogs, though. Can't think of the name of it, but just beautiful little black and white dogs with a little bit of brown spritzed in there, but their hair was long. And every morning we used to go out, before we put the concrete in our yard to make parking and knock the wall out, we had to go pick ticks out of their feet, in between their feet, and pick them out of their ears and stuff. And then when the ticks started getting inside the house, I said, we got to give them away. So we gave them away, and they were a great pair. Nobody walked inside our yard. You had to, the way the gate opened up, if they were over in the grassy area, you could open up the gate and it would lock. That gate was a dual gate. It would lock you out of the yard, or it would lock you out of the house, out of the home area. So we'd have to do that because they just were surly. So that was nice to have. But, we just had, Dorothy was just a baby then when we had that one. And they just loved her to death. And me and my sweetheart. but we had to let him go. We got him to good people though, and you know, it's a shame they had to go, because those were a really good pair of pups. But we're looking again to get them, and you know, this one here, my wife sent me a picture. I wish I could put it on this to show you, but beautiful dog. The mother is a very, very protective. Every time we go over to their house, she has to put her in the cage out in the little garage type area, because she can get foul. Now I think I could probably go up and pet her. I don't think I'd have a problem. It was like these labs over here that, you know, just sounded so horrible and stuff. And I said, hey, and one day they weren't tied to the door and tied to the stairs, and they were just loose in the yard. And when I seen them over the fence sticking up and their tails going, I just went and petted them. Now, a lot of times I go by, if they're not tied, they'll bark because they want me to pet them. They want to be my buddy. So just love dogs. We were over at our friends yesterday. We stopped over there, and they have a couple dogs too, and those dogs love me to death. Most people that come by, they bark at them, and they seem very vicious, but I went up to them, and I seen them. They weren't gonna hurt me. I knew that. I just knew it. I felt it. So I just went up and started petting them. Now, if I come over there and I don't pet them, they're mad. They start fighting, and they'll try to hook me with their claws and stuff. You know, it's funny. But yeah, I just love them. And this is where Rickshaw is today. We're actively searching for a nice pup. You know, I don't want to go to no pup farm and get them, because there's a lot of bad breeders around here. I have a buddy that breeds I used to work with, and he has a really nice dog there. I'd like to get one, but his price was a little bit too high. You know, just way too high what I was willing to pay, and I made him an offer, and he come back and said, no, I can't go with that. And okay, that's your deal. And what I see is they still got them. You know, you know, you can't overprice them. You know, dog's a dog. The longer you keep them, the more money you got into them. Now I know he breeds them, him and his wife, and they give them all the shots. They got a vet that they take them to. I know that's expensive. His price was just too high. And then I saw another fella had a Doberman, the brown one, like what I wanted, and beautiful dog, just exactly what I was looking for. Not too big and not too small, just right. You know, kind of like the Goldilocks thing, or whatever they call it. Snow White, whichever one went in with the bears. Yeah, the bed was too good. Well, it was perfect sized, the parents, but he wanted like $55,000 for it. And I'm like, give me a break. In the Philippines? I don't think so. You know, I don't think so. That was just too high for me. And would I love to have that pup? It was a beautiful male, and yeah, I would have liked to have that pup, but it's gone now, and somebody bought it. Somebody paid that for it. Now, my neighbor over here has a brown Doberman. He comes walking by. Beautiful, beautiful dog. But he doesn't have the English, and when he walks by, mostly my wife isn't here because we'd like to see if we get a pup, if he knows, or where he got it from. Because it's not old. It's, last time I saw it, I'd say it's 6 months, 7 months old tops. You know, and a lot of people can't tell how old the dog is. Okay, you can have that. But here in the Philippines, dogs age really quick. You know, I used to be able to tell you a dog in the States how old it was, and I was within 6 months of its actual age. But here, I'll look at a dog and I'll say, yeah, that dog's about 15 years old, and then they say, oh no, it's only 4. But that's what happens to them here. They just don't take care of them. They give them their table scraps and bones and fish bones and everything, and their intestines get perforated, and they just don't live long. And most of them are full of worms. So it's a sad case here. I've done pictures. If you go back on my videos and look at one of my thumbnails of one of the dogs we've seen, and even around here, full of mange and sickly. One of them, we were walking, and there's this real mangy one that sleeps under a car, eats out of the garbage and stuff. Doesn't belong to anybody that we know of. Moo was walking ahead of me, and I tried to keep him right by me when we walked, but he got ahead, and this thing came out and growled at him, and I covered some ground in about a second and a half and clobbered that prick with my stick. And now that dog, when it sees me coming way at the end of the street, I'm talking a couple 100 feet away, it starts running the other way, and that's what I want. I don't want no sickly looking thing growling or getting nasty with a baby. You know, that's not a dog to be around here. Somebody needs to shoot that thing. You know, I remember when they came around here, not here, but up in GMA, when they were collecting all the dogs up. Baron guy said, we're going to clear out all these damn dogs, because there were hundreds of them running around. Strays, nobody owned them. They came with spears. I'm not kidding you. That's how they got them. And when they'd find one, the guy would holler, and 3 or 4 guys would get in there, and they'd spear chuck them. And the next day, all the tricycle drivers were cooking calderetta. Hey, you can believe me or not, guys, but it's what happened. And you know something? I didn't feel a bit bad for any of them dogs. I feel bad for people who breed them or let them breed and then throw them out like that. That's a very terrible person. I mean, if you got puppies and you can't give them away, well, guess what? They're your puppies. Take care of them. You know, it's a dog. And guys, dogs are gifts. They're all gifts. So that's just pretty much it for me today. I'm on my dog and cat rant. This is Rick Shaw. Don't forget to hug each other, and don't forget to pet your dog and give him a good treat when he's good. And this is Rick Shaw out.